Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to be here. And it's a pleasure to welcome you to this training on understanding methane accountability and using emissions monitoring and accountability tool, or in a short form, EMAT. My name is Adeyemi Okedere, and I'm a program executive for Environmental Energy and Extractive at the Dataphyte Foundation. And this training is about much more than learning how to use a website or a platform or a document. It's about understanding one of Nigeria's biggest environmental challenges and learning how ordinary citizens, especially young people, can use evidence to demand accountability. And as a matter of fact, many of us have heard discussion about climate change. We hear about rising temperatures, flooding, drought, food insecurity, air pollution. But one thing we rarely hear about is methane. You know what? Ironically, methane is one of the fastest ways we can slow climate change if we reduce it. Unfortunately, most methane data is hidden inside technical technical reports that, ordinary Nigerians never read. Government agencies publish reports, companies publish disclosures, analyze data. Very few people translate that information into stories communities can understand. That is exactly why, you are here today. Um, you are not just, a participant, you are becoming a youth advocate for methane accountability. And your responsibility is to bridge the gap between, technical information and public understanding. And hopefully by the end of this section, you will know, why methane matters, where to find credible emissions data, how to interpret that data, and how to turn it into stories that, encourage accountability. And trust me, this training is going to be an interactive one. So please feel free to ask questions, share your experiences. The more interactive we are, the more valuable today's section, becomes. And, another thing is that we're not just, training climate scientists. We are training advocates who know how to ask good questions, right? Because, data itself does not create accountability. People using people using data create accountability. So if I throw an open question now and say, when you hear the word climate change, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Let me you can put it in the chat box. Let's see. When you hear the words climate change, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Let's do that in the next 5-10 seconds. Let's see what comes to people's mind. Okay. I might want to say, okay, okay, depletion of ozone layer, global warming, flooding. Uh, okay, can we get more response? Uh, okay, Omawali said depletion of ozone layer. Jemima said global warming, flooding. Um, okay, so all right, let's that's excellent responses from the two people who respond to that question. And yeah, we have flooding, heat, pollution, deforestation, oil spills, carbon emissions, and maybe gas flaring. Gas flaring. All right, sorry. But today we are going to focus on something that doesn't always, appear on that list, and that is methane emission. Sorry. Okay, that's methane emission. That's methane emission, and yeah. So we're going to the meeting proper now. So today's agenda we're having, you're going to learn understanding methane emission in Nigeria, from data to accountability, which is much more on the nature and commitment, introducing the EMAT platform, advocacy in action, the committee returning toolkit, and we have question and answer. And, one thing today's training follows, it follows a simple way, which is understanding, data, accountability, advocacy, and, action, just like we have it on the agenda. Now that we understand why this training matters, let's understand the environmental issue at the heart of today's conversation, which is much more of the big picture, why this training matters, right? Nigeria is one of, our Africa's largest oil and gas producers, because our country plays an important role in global climate action. Over the years, Nigeria has signed international agreements promising to reduce emissions. Government policies have also committed to ending routine gas flaring. And, this commitment look impressive on paper. Yeah, when you see those documents, they look impressive on paper, the promises and all of that. But making promises is only the beginning. The real question is, are these promises actually happening? Right? Think about it. If government says gas flaring will end by 2030, how do we know where that progress is being made? If companies promise to reduce emissions, how do citizens verify those claims? The answer is data. And more importantly, citizens who understand the data, that is where advocacy begins. For instance, suppose Nigeria announces that methane will be, and 3 years later, satellite observations still detect extensive gas flaring. Communities continue reporting pollution. Youth advocates compare official commitment with available data. They discover significant gaps. Their findings become, newspaper stories. Questions are asked in public forums. Policy discussions begin. These are all accountability, right? So now that we've, discussed or probably understand what accountability is all about, but one thing is that accountability starts with understanding exactly what methane is, right? Which is what, brings us, what is methane and why does it matter, right? And before we discuss, the accountability part, we need to understand methane itself, right? Methane is a greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide, it traps heat in the atmosphere, right? But however, methane is much more powerful over the short time. Scientists estimate that over a 20-year period, methane traps about 80 times more than carbon dioxide. Although it remains in the atmosphere for a much shorter period, roughly 12 years, sorry, let me admit this to people. Yeah, although it remains, in the atmosphere for a much shorter period, roughly 12 years, it has an outsized warming effect during that time, which means that cutting methane emission is one of the fastest ways to slow near-term global warming that we've been experiencing. And that is why government around in Nigeria, the oil and gas sector is one of the largest sources of methane emissions, right? And so let's look at the three major ways methane escape. We have the gas flaring, when companies extract crude oil, natural gas comes out too. Instead of now capturing the gas, many company burn it. This is called gas flaring. Mind you, flaring burns some methane. It still wastes valuable natural gas and releases greenhouse gases, which means that incomplete combustion can also leave some methane unburned. And the second one, which is venting, so this is like instead of burning the gas, some facilities, simply release it directly into the atmosphere. And it is even more harmful because methane enters the atmosphere largely unchanged. So when it's there, I think recently in 2 or 3 states, they said students were just sleeping or something. They were inhaling some, due to the fact that they were inhaling some, something that is in the air. I think when they did their findings, that they realized that we have too much of, methane. Those communities were prone to, too much of methane that has been leaked through venting. Then the third one is fugitive emissions. These are accidental leaks, pipeline leaks, storage tank leaks, valves leaks, because old infrastructure, develop cracks and they don't pay attention to it. Poor maintenance removes, allows methane to escape unnoticed. Many of these leaks are invisible, which is why monitoring is essential. You can't, it is very difficult, to monitor, very difficult to see them, right? They are invisible, just like you can't see air. So it's not like it's a cloud that you can see that, the cloud is black, it's turning to blue, it's turning to gray, So I will give you a kind of scenario. Imagine an oil producing community in River State. I believe, we have people that are from communities in rivers and I think Edo, and Bayelsa as well on the call. When imagine an oil producing community in River State, residents complain that their crops no longer grow well, fish catches is usually odd, children experience breathing problems, which is what I just said, not quite long, and bright flames burn continuously from a nearby facility. You know what? The company argues that, but later environmental reports reveal that, methane emission remains significantly higher than expected in that particular community. So I would throw this to the audience now. If you were a youth advocate, right, what question would you ask using that scenario? What's, question? You can you might want to speak and you might want to drop yours on the call, on the chat also. If you were a youth advocate with that scenario, what question would you ask? You get like, you can unmute yourself if you want to speak, and you can also drop your response on the chat box. Yeah. Should I call name? Okay, I think Omawali, do you want to say something? Do you want to respond to that? And Amos, Deborah, Jemima, do you want to say something on that? Okay, seems some people. Okay. Okay. So I'll be waiting. I think some people are already typing their response there. Ooh. Oh, seems the mama is just joining. So I just asked for those who are just joining. So I just asked, I just give us a scenario that imagine an oil company, oil producing community in River State, right? Resident complain that their crops no longer grow well, fish catches are reducing, the air feels unusually hot, children, experience breathing problems, and bright flames born are continuously from a nearby facility. And, the company argues that operations comply with regulations, right? And, later when the environmental reports, shows up, it reveals that methane emission remains significantly, higher than expected. If you are a youth advocate, within that community, what question would you ask? All right, says I will just go. So, as a youth
Okay.
advocate, okay, go on, go on.
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, for me, some of the questions based on the scenario that you have just stated, some of the questions that I will need to find out if, I will go to the community, get some, background information, first-hand information, from those that are affected, which are the people that live in the community, to get to find out how the thing has impacted on their crops, you know, how their crops were before and then how it is now, maybe if the yield has drastically decreased or something. And then also ask them about the impact of if it affected their water too, how it's also impacting on their children's health and all that. So I'll want to get some of those, information so that when I'm advocating to the company or doing a visit to the company, so I can have like evidence-based facts on what to present to them. So that is my own contribution on what I can do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I like the fact that you are looking much more at the people involved, right? How this must have, affect, their way of living, the earth wise, food wise, and
Yeah.
all of those. So I think it's a great, brilliant idea. So yeah, any other person? Okay, so so maybe other questions you might want to ask is or you might want to ask why is gas still being flared, right? If they said there's a regulation in place and as the company reported emissions, right? As government inspected the facility, is there a budget for methane reduction that is being, given to this company? Who is responsible for enforcement? These are exactly the kind of accountability, questions EMAT is designed to support, right? We need to know all of this. Then I like the fact that Maureen was able to, even link it further to the people day of living, the everyday of living, like, how it's been affected, how they have been affected by, So Omowale said environmental reports indicate that methane emission in the community is significantly high. What specific measure is your company taking to reduce that? Okay, so I think this is another way of looking at it because, yeah, you have to also hear from the, horse's mouth. You have to hear from the company. What are they doing? These are what people are talking about within the community. So what are you people doing about it? Don't forget, it's part of, they need to be very, very conscious of how the operation affect their host. And yeah, so these are common misconceptions that people made. They said that just usually you can see smoke, right? You can easily smoke, you can see the flames out of this, but methane is usually invisible. Smoke may be produced by combustion. Yeah, those dark cloud that you see that goes up to the sky. But methane itself is a colorless gas. You can't see it. You can't see it. the other misconception is that only oil companies produce methane, right? That is also no. Methane also comes from agriculture, especially livestock, right? Landfills, wetland, and wastewater. And today's training focuses on the oil and gas sector because of its significant role in Nigeria and accountability mechanism available through EMAT. Then the last one I will talk about, the last misconception that people is deal with is that methane only affects climate. And that's also a big no. While methane is a greenhouse gas, right? Activities associated with methane emissions, such as gas flaring, can also contribute to local pollution, harm like livelihoods and affect the health and well-being of nearby communities. Yeah, so methane may be invisible, but its effect on people, communities, and the climate are real. So, understanding what methane is a first step towards holding, polluters accountable. So let's go to methane in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes,
All
yes, we
right, so
can
you
see.
can see. All right, so I think one thing that comes to, but probably one thing that would have come to my mind if I'm here is that, why are we talking so much about Nigeria? And the answer is simple. Nigeria is one of Africa's largest producer of oil and natural gas. And oil and gas have generated, billions of dollars in government revenue over several decades. Right? They support export, they provide employment, they contribute significantly to Nigeria's economy. However, alongside this benefit comes an environmental responsibility as well, right? And Nigeria has consistently ranked among the world, leading gas flaring countries. There's a report from World Bank, Global Gas Flaring Tracker that they released recently. Nigeria is among the top, top 7. Nigeria is among the top, as ranked among the world's top gas flaring nation for years running, right? And if you look at the figure on your screen, 65% share of global gas flaring produced by just 7 countries, including Nigeria, despite being a much smaller share of oil output, right? 30%, you see, right? So gas flaring occurs when natural gas produced alongside crude oil is burned instead of being captured for productive use. Although, companies often describe flaring as a safety measure, routing flaring usually represent lost economic value and avoidable greenhouse gas emissions. And just like I said earlier, the World Bank Global Gas Flaring Tracker has repeatedly listed Nigeria among the major gas flaring nations, which and one thing, what the figure we are seeing here tell us is that it tells us a small number of countries account for, disproportionately it's probably not a large share of global gas flaring. Nigeria is among them. Yeah, I think there are about 9. US is there, Nigeria is there, and I think Iran or Iraq too. Is there. And this means reducing methane emission could significantly contribute to Nigeria climate targets. So, so for better explanation, gas flaring burns natural gas, don't forget. Then when flaring works efficiently, methane is converted mostly into carbon dioxide. However, not all flaring is efficient as well. Some methane escape, unbound, in addition, venting and the equipment leaks release methane directly. Therefore, gas, flare remains an important indicator when discussing methane accountability. And in the case study in Nigeria, or probably a kind of scenario, just imagine an international investor want to finance clean energy project in Africa or probably in Nigeria. Then before investing, they examine environmental performance. They compare Nigeria with another oil producing country. The country captures, most associated gas, while Nigeria continues flaring substantial quantities. if I ask us which country is more likely to attract climate-friendly investment, I want to believe that everybody will go with company A, country A. And it's because environmental accountability is not only it's not only about protecting nature. It also affects, foreign investments. It also affects foreign investment and the public and international relations. So we you know, investigator. There's much to pass from here. So Nigeria climate commitment. What are the international commitments that we've made, in the past? And one of the most important concepts in advocacy today is understanding promises. You cannot hold anyone accountable unless you first know what they promised to do. And Nigeria has made several important commitments to reduce methane emissions. Just look at it, for instance. Can you hear me? Seems there's a network issue.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
All right. Thank you, Maria. So just look at it, for example, your state government have said they are going to do XYZ project, and it's already in the state budget line. That you can't say they did not do a particular road, or they did not reconstruct or construct a particular road or borehole without you first seeing what they have on the budget. What is that particular project, has it been listed in the budget as what they are going to do for that year? It is when you are able to see that, okay, it's part of what they said they will do this year, and it has also been contracted to a contractor. Then this is the time span that they gave the contractor to finish the project. You can do a follow, you can hold. So at every point, you know who to hold accountable. If there is in the budget and they are here to disburse fund or probably contract it out, you are still holding the government accountable, or probably the in charge of that, so when it's being contracted, you can also do a further accountability to ask the contractor what is delaying the work, why are they here to finish the work and all of those things. So let's look at some of the commitment that Nigeria has made. The first one is Global Methane Pledge that we made. Nigeria joined many countries in supporting the Global Methane Pledge, and the overall goal of that commitment is straightforward. Number one is reduce global methane emission by at least 30% from 2020 levels by 2030, right? And by becoming a champion country, Nigeria signaled its willingness to lead methane reduction efforts, especially within Africa. However, signing an international pledge is only the first step. Citizens must monitor whether implementation follows. So that's one. The other commitment is the NDC, and this is even very, very close to home, because I remember I read that they just submitted the 3.0 version of this a few months ago. Every country that is part of the Paris Agreement, I want to believe at least a good number of us know what Paris Agreement, is all about. So, every country that is part of the, Paris Agreement submit an NDC, and think of an NDC as a national climate action plan, like what, drives the work that each country do around climate change. And it outlines is always what emissions will be reduced, by how much and within what time frame. One thing is that Nigerian NDC includes ambitious methane reduction targets, within the oil and gas sector. A lot of this will be shared, with us on the group chat after this training today, so that you can all employees have a good number of documents to work with to write or probably work on your report after the training. The third one is a short-lived climate pollutant action plan, right? Nigeria also developed a national plan targeting short-lived climate pollutants, such as one of its major goals is eliminating greenhouse gas flaring. And again, the important question is not whether the plan exists. The question is always like, is implementation happening? This is why we are here today. Policies are intentions, right? Implementations is action, but what accountability measure the distance between the two, which is the gap that we are trying to, bridge today. For instance, suppose government announces, greenhouse gas flaring will end by 2030. 5 years later, a journalist visits several producing communities, gas flares are still burning, communities still complain, right? Question is, does the existence of the policy actually mean success? No. Because success is measured through evidence. This is why, data matter. There's nothing you want to do without the availability of data, right? Now that we've seen the promises, the next question is, who ensures people actually know whether those promises are being fulfilled, right? Why public awareness matters. Why public awareness matters, right? Imagine a report containing critical information about methane emission, and the report sits on a government website. Technically it is public, but nobody reads it. At the end of the day, who benefits? Usually those who prefer not to be questioned, right? Transparency alone is not enough. So, information must become understanding, understanding must become discussion. Right? So discussion must become action. That is exactly where, youth advocate become important. When citizens understand environmental information, leaders become more accountable, companies become more transparent, community become empowered, right? So transparency information exists, right? Then ability people use that information. So in form of a storytelling, imagine two headlines, right? Headline one is saying, company report 25,000 tons of methane emission. Few people will definitely read that. Few people definitely read that. But look at headline two, company emissions equal pollution affecting thousands of families in nearby communities, right? Which headline attract more attention? So what he's trying to tell you is that it's demonstrating why storytelling matters in everything that we do today, right? Maybe another scenario is a community leader hears that government allocated money to reduce methane emission. Month later, nothing happened, nothing changed, right? Nothing changed. Sorry, I'm trying to admit someone. So nothing changed, right? Because citizens know the budget exists. They begin asking questions. Media investigate, civil society follow up. Eventually, at the end of the government agency respond. Awareness triggered, accountability. It might not look easy on paper. It might look easy on paper, but in practical, you try when you are trying to connect point A to point B, you see how much more it's important that we first have, the data to work with. When you have the data, when you have the information, the right information to work with, every other thing is easy to connect together. But without that information, you can't move from point A to point B. So now that so that's why we have it that emission data stays without public pressure. Emission data stays buried in technical report. Nobody would know. Companies face, little reputational cost for non-disclosure. Budget promises you go unchecked against real climate commitment. I did the last native report on final report on oil and gas sector, which is the 2023. I reviewed the document and I was able to come up with almost 20 visualizations and fact card, right? That explain because people won't read the 133 pages report. So that is why we are here. How do we simplify this thing? How do we make it an engaging conversation on the internet. How do we let people, how do we, promote this or do an advocacy on this so that, people that these things are affected or that affect affect most, they are able to see how people are, working on their behalf to help them, subdue some of this. And we can always do that when we put pressure on the right agency, government, and whether even the company as well. We need to know which company is doing what are they doing, what are they not doing right? What are they doing, what are they not doing right? So now that we've discussed, public awareness, but where does this information actually come from, So that's where we're going to the next one, which talks much more on from data to accountability. Right? Many people assume environmental data simply appears online, but trust me, it doesn't. There's a process, and I will walk you through it. But before then, I want to see, do we have any questions or clarifications before we move further? Okay. We don't have. So the first one is, the first process is companies report emission using a standardized greenhouse gas reporting template, which has been provided for them. And this report includes information on greenhouse gas emissions, including methane where reported. And secondly, NAETI reviews and verifies. All right, so I'm just getting one of the question in the chat box. So I'm going to attend to that question, at the later part of this training. So there's time for question and answer, and yeah, I'll respond to that. So the second one is native reviews, and verifies the information as part of its audit process. Native role is to, promote transparency in Nigeria's extractive industry by collecting and publishing information that helps citizens understand what is happening in the sector. But, just like what I said, just like the last report they released, which is the 2023 report, they are presently, working on the 2024 report. And yeah, they have been on it, and hopefully, in the next couple of weeks or, next 1 month or 2 months, they should release the 2024 final report as well, so that we can have much more information to work with. The third one is, verified information, enters the public domain. When it's been verified, it enters the public domain. And then finally, journalists, civil society, researchers, and advocates examine the information. And also the final step is where accountability begins. Notice something interesting, the data itself doesn't ask questions, people ask questions. So this is where you see the gaps when you're going through the platform, when you're going through documents. Okay, what are they not reporting? What they report as the federal government says something, before now. It's a whole lot to be there to see. Why is Nigeria among the top 9? Why are we top 9 of countries that being caught up in the gas flaring, right? According to the World Bank gas flaring tracker, how do we get there, right? What happens to the like of Saudi, and the likes? Why are they not? So there's a lot of questions to ask when access this information. So when I'm, NATI, think of NATI as an organization helping Nigeria see what is happening inside the extractive sector. Avoid over, because you can't have access to the company's data, but NATI already have, a template that they give them, and they have a standard of operational of operation, how they, get the data from the company, how are they tracking it, and what are they expected to submit at the end of the year. So now we're going through the introducing EMAT, the emission monitoring and accountability. So what it does, EMAT brings company, emission disclosure via NET and government budget data into one place. So anyone can check whether, climate commitment are backed by real money and real action. And this particular website, you can see the website here, policy-t.russell.app/EMAT. So I think I will just put this on the chat box, or probably on the WhatsApp group, so that we can also, let me just put it on, let me paste the link on the WhatsApp group. Policy dot so I've just dropped the link to the web platform on the WhatsApp group. So confirm if you have access to the link, so that can move on from there. So before then, so to better understand how NET works, right? Look at this this chain from company to NET, then NET put it to the public, then youth advocate, then community, So what comes to your mind? Suppose report emission, only 10 submit complete information. Is that a story? Is that a story? 30 oil companies expected to report emissions, then only 10, submit complete information. If you ask me, is it free? Because sometimes, misinformation is more important than the information available. Because failure to disclose may raise accountability question. Okay, the last report the Nature released, which is 2023, I think only 15 out of 65 companies that were expected to report their emission, only 15, the 24% of them, actually, submit their information to NET to be published. The rest, they say their data is not available. So that's an advocacy question itself. Why are they not, publishing their own emission? Is it that they are not releasing any emission? Is it that they are not releasing any emission, or even though what is the fine that they have to pay for a company that does not meet up with the deadline, or there should be, because no matter how much more you said, you are working on that, you are working in the oil sector, you release, either through flaring, either through venting, or what's it called? So you just have to do that. Those are gaps that you need to watch out for and, meet up with. So now that we're doing EMAT, everything we've discussed earlier, probably so far, brings us to EMAT, So one report contains emission and all of those things, but EMAT helps you solve, that problem. Instead of reading the whole of NET, EMAT would have helped you to, even though they are still working on the platform. So EMAT is the emission monitoring and accountability tool. Brings together emissions, disclosures, including data published through native process and in one platform. So instead of searching through multiple and users can explore environmental information efficiently using this platform. And so you might want to think of EMAT as an accountability dashboard. It helps users ask better questions. For instance, as a company reported emissions, as government allocated money for methane reduction to, available budget aligned with stated climate commitments. These are exactly the kind of question advocates should ask. Makes you, notice something important to talk about or to, advocate on. But one thing is that EMAT does not replace investigation. That's just it. It only helps start investigations. The platform points you towards potential accountability issues. Your responsibility is to verify, findings, gather additional evidence, and communicate them, responsibly. So so let me try and reshare my screen so that okay, so I still seems I can still do that. So let me also go through the what you see. So can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can see your screen.
All right, thank you. So please, every other person to come might want to, go through the URL. Just what I would just do is to walk you through what the platform looks like, where you can get data and how you can go about it. So sorry, some guys are having issue to join the meeting. So all right, sorry. So can you all see my screen now?
Yes. Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So when you come to this page now, policy, this is the home page that you'll see. Then you see the policy data, there's their own data and reports, stakeholder blogs about that, but you are much more, interested in the EMAT part of it. So you just use this URL, then it brings you here directly. So you could see methane, you have different what's it called category, methane, the country commitment 2025, which is there. Then we have the emission scorecard as well. So when you come to the methane dashboard, you are much more interested in the methane or CO2 now. Then you look at the country commitment, or either you're looking at the country or companies. Let's look at the country commitment 2025. Let's see if there's any commitment made for 2025. So you could see these are some of the commitment that different organizations or probably different government have made. You could see the one from National Steel Raw Material, Exploration Agencies, SON, NUPRC, Nostra, NMPD, PRA, then Energy Commission of Nigeria, then Energy Transition Office. So these are the commitment. You can go and you read through them one after the other to get what they said. What are the commitments? It's a story on its own. Some I want to do a matrix, a stakeholder matrix on the emission commitment for all of these people now, right? You might want to just look. If I go further to see what do we have here, let's see what. So you could see National Steel Raw Material Exploration Agency. I think it's still loading. You have the legal framework, which is NDC that they work with as well. The policy objective. So I think some of these things are not yet updated there, but you could see they said one of their policy objectives is achieve 80% reduction in fluorocarbons consumption by 2047 in accordance with Nigeria obligation under the Kigali Amendment. Right. So if you want to look at it as well, you now go and look at what is this Kigali Amendment all about. So that is how advocacy is being done. So they have their project and all of those things there too. But that's not really where we are going to today. So we could see that, so we can also look at companies' commitment as well if they have. And here we can look at intra and inter-company comparison. So I think intra-company is when you are looking within the same company, right? When you're looking within the same company, which means you might want to compare, maybe 2 years together. The inter is when you're comparing two different companies together. But let's confirm if. So review commitment. So you see what it tells you, select company. So you're selecting two company. Okay, so now you're selecting two company. No, you're selecting one company. So let's say I want to check for Shell or Mobil. Which one should we go for? So you guys can suggest if you have been following you. Should we go for Shell, Mobil?
You can do for Mobil.
Which one?
Mobil.
Okay, Mobil. Okay, let's do Mobil then. So pick Mobil, then we'll select the year. So that means we can only choose for 2022 and 2023, which are the ones that are available. So I'll just click view data. So this is Mobil data, right? It's the gas emission for methane for 2022-2023. You could see the one they had for 2020. For 2022, they had 223,000 million, 030,851.317. Then see. So this is an accountability. So this is the data analysis summary here. Total emission across the 2 years. This is it. Average annual emission. Then the range. So this alone helps you, tells you a story to write or to work on. So you see that emission increased by 14.6% from 2022 to 2023. So you can download the data, you can generate a media story. So if I want to generate a media story now, click on this. So let's see what it gives us. It might not give you what you would be able to publish. You still need to work on it because there are still some things that you need to add from your own and maybe where you mix with depending on the angle you are looking at it for. Who are these methane emission? Where is this company, situated? Which community? What does it look like? So you could see OB methane emission and can you see my screen? Can you still see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can see it.
All right. So what is it?
No, I said go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I said go ahead. can see your
Okay.
screen.
So you can see Mobile's methane emission and investigative report, and it also gives you executive summary, which says the investigative report delves into the greenhouse gas emissions, specifically methane of the oil corporation Mobile for the year 2022 and 2023. The data reveals the company environmental impact, financial implication, and the policy framework, it operates under. And also the report also includes recommendation and forecast of the company future trajectory. So you can see the key findings. The data play indicates a rise in mobile, the company emitted, blah, blah, blah. What are also the analysis of the financial implication of this image is crucial directly. So you might want to look at this yourself to propagate it. The project status, what are the current project status that is being carried out by the organization, policy framework, what's their policy framework, objective, proposed reforms, audit findings, expert. So this has given you a template of what you need to work with. If you are yet to know how to go about it or how to develop or how to start, these are giving you a start. So you can always work with this template, then turn it to a normal story. So that's that. So you might want to also look at let's also look at company money. So now let's look at intercompany comparison now. So I have a broader view. So now I'm going to choose companies. So we've checked for Mobi. So let's still use Mobi. Which other country should we use as the second one?
Let's check on Chevron.
Chevron, right? Okay. So let's check. Let's use Mobi and Chevron. So we are using Mobi and Chevron, then we are selecting years. We are also selecting the 2 years as well. So let's build the data. Okay, so we have it already. It gives you the chart, comes here to give you summary of everything that you've chosen, right? Then it gives you a detailed company data, right? Then we can also generate, you can also generate FOI request if you need to get further more information from either of the company. Maybe one of their data is missing, right? So you can download the data, then you can also generate a media story. So let's generate story like we did for this one. All right, so you see the unseen impacts of Mobi and Chevron Nigeria Limited. So you see the same thing. It gives you the executive summary, gave you key findings of what the data is all about, the financial analysis, policy framework, that is this objective, proposed reform, audit finding, expert analysis, recommendation, and impact assessment as well. Impact assessment as well. So do you have okay, I think you still have do you have any question regarding this process, and also the scorecard as well? I think we already have for 2025. So if you view emission scorecard, you could see the scorecard. Trying to see how it looks like. So there's a whole lot of information on the platform already that you can use to generate your story. And being that you are on ground in the community, it's easier for you to also ask questions to give it much more another layer of how all of these things is affecting people in that community, people in that locality, right? So you can see inside the scorecard. So they said the access, only 15 of 62 operators disclose sufficient data for assessment, just like what I said earlier. You know, a 76% non-reporting rate. This silence is a primary indicator of sector-wide opacity here. So they are saying that of the 15 assessed, 3 good, which is 50 points and above, and the point greater than, you know, then these are the company. This shows that this company, SO, OML 133, NEPCO, and Frontier Oil, you know, shows that emission reduction is visible. Then 2 is fair. You know, they are between 40 and 50 points, which is Chevron, SPDC. And they said their comment is adequate disclosure, but performance inconsistent. You know, that's a story on its own. 10-4, majority cluster here, with scores dragged down by weak transparency and rising emissions. So you could see that alone, that this information alone is a story on its own. It's an advocacy story on its own. This figure that you're seeing here alone. But when you now go, how did they end up doing the scoring criteria? You know, transparency and disclosure. So 40% years of, you know, methodology, and they are using a traffic light ranking. Good, fair, and poor. Then the scorecard. They said SO has 62, SNEP 62, Frontier has 57, and Chevron 49. Then every other one has below, you know, 40. So, you know, transparency and disclosure, they have something over 40. So this is a whole lot for you to, you know, use as your advocacy tool as well. So let me know if you have any question based on this particular section, so that we can, you know, take it before we move to the next. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Yeah, we can hear.
Yes,
All right. So
yes,
do
we
you
can
have
hear
any?
you.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or clarification based on this demo or demo? Yeah, that I've just showed you. You know, do you need any other further information on how to go about or how to make use of this platform as a whole?
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Yeah, mine is just a clarification and also question along.
Okay.
And also a request. The first request is, please, I would appreciate if we have recordings of this training, because it's very, very essential one to be able to. One cannot afford to miss. I would love if we have the link for the recording so that one will review afterwards. And then secondly, I work in the recycling industry, it's plastic waste management, and you know, is part of what we are contributing in our own sense in mitigating climate change. And sometimes we collaborate with some other, all these uh, oil and gas companies and manufacturing companies that are producing plastic, especially with the introduction of EPR. So I don't know if in the recycling space, the plastic aspect of it, if one will be able to play a major role in regards to this, because I had a session previously about uh, emission, and we have the carbon credit. So it's something related to this training that I that I'm part of today. So I don't know if there is, you know, the similarity in between the two. I don't know if my question is clear, please. Sorry.
I think I get the first one. Yeah, the recording will be shared with you after the training. And yeah, so I think I missed a lot of other things that you said in the second question, where you were talking about where you work and
Okay.
what you.
Okay. Okay. to restructure the question easily, I think I will leave it after the session. I will still revisit the training, and then I will be able to come up with a well structured question formally, so that maybe I will have the right response. Thank you so much.
All right, it's fine. After this training as well, that's why we create the WhatsApp group. Anybody who has one or two things to clarify, or who probably needs help on how to go about, what they are, they can easily, reach out on the platform. Why, we provide necessary that helps them to bring their work to life. Yeah, that's it. All right, so I think we can now move forward. The next thing we want to talk about is data to storage. And this is one of my favorite parts of today's training, because information alone rarely changes behavior. Stories do, right? And think about the last news article, television documentary, or even social media video that stayed in your mind. You probably don't remember every statistics, right? But you remember the story. So good advocacy works exactly the same way. Your responsibility is to translate technical information into language communities understand, right? That's why I want to believe everybody that is here today, they all live in that community that they've said they said they are. So you understand the plight of the community. You know how this thing is affecting their everyday life. You are familiar with it. So it is easier for you to even communicate and express, how this affect them as a whole, right? Because your responsibility is to translate technical information into language, community understand, right? So one thing data answers for us is, what happened, and the story, answers is, why should people care? For instance, now, if I want to write a story, let's say maybe the first one, companies emitted 45,000 tons of methane. Trust me, most people won't remember that. But if I had said the methane released by one company contributes to pollution affecting communities that depend on farming and fishing for survival, which version is more, memorable? So I'm trying, which version do you think is much more, which one do you think will resonate with the people in the community?
The first version.
The first version says company X. Okay, the first version is company X emitted 45,000 tons of methane. And the second version is the methane released by one company contributes to pollution affecting communities that spend or that depend on farming and fishing for survival.
Okay,
First, right?
What was the question again?
Seems I can't hear you. So I'm saying that. So the question is, I'm giving you two different storytelling version. The first one is company X emitted 45,000 tons of methane, right? Then the second one is the methane released by one company contributes to pollution affecting communities that depend on farming and fishing for survival. So which version do you think is more memorable?
Looking at both versions, for me, the second version is looking more memorable in the sense that it explains what actually happens to the farmer. I know those people that are fishing and they are using it for survival. So, but the first version
Okay, so
just stated.
let me just put the question in the chat box so that company X emitted 45,000 tons of methane. Version 2 says the methane released by one company contributes to pollution affecting communities that depend on farming and pollution. Huge pollution. So yeah, the question is down in the chat box, so I think we can engage with that. Fatima, the question is in the chat box now, so I think we have a few seconds to address that. Okay, so I want to believe people will drop their response on the chat box, so we can move on.
I think the first one is more memorable. You know, it just goes straight to the point, setting the figure. Why the
Okay.
second one, it may not be memorable per se, but it's more relatable, especially those that are living in that community that have been affected, because it tells more details of what they are going through. You know, it's stated in detail. But if it's for the memorable, you know, the first one, because it's short and concise.
All right. So I think it's two ways. It depends on how, everybody, every one of us will be looking at it. But also, we can also, join the two together where we say, oh, company X emitted so and so number of methane, and, then go further to say, the methane released by so company also, has contributed to, the fishing and farming of a particular society or community as well. So there's no one way directly to this thing, but one thing we want to have at the back of our mind is our story connect, numbers to people, right? There's number, and you're using the lived experience of people to provide much more context to it. You're contextualizing the data with lived experience of people. So that makes it much more in advocacy format, if you want to look at it. So now we have the 7-box framework, and there's a toolkit on it already. And in due time, when it's been done, we're still reviewing it now. So when we are done, with the design, all of other things, it will be shared with you guys too. So you can also always go through it. But for the framework, every good accountability story should answer 7 questions, right? What happened? Who is affected? Why does it matter? What evidence support it? Who is responsible? What solutions exist? What actions should follow? So if any of these questions are missing, the story becomes weaker. If you look at it, once you start a story, what happened? You're starting with what happened. Oh, so community is, has been affected with methane or whatever thing. Who is affected? You now talk about, the people, maybe marginalized people, maybe the women, the children, the youth, how it's affecting them. And why does it matter? That's when you talk about, okay, the reason why it matters is because it's affecting the livelihood of these people. What evidence support it? You do your research to see what scientists have said about this flaring, right? Who is responsible? Both the company, both the regulatory sector like NNPC and the NUP RC, if I'm correct, yeah. Then what solution exists? How can they, have they provided what they should have done, to avoid this, and they are not following it? Then what action should follow, right? So just for a case study, a youth advocate discovered that methane emissions from a facility have remained high for, 3 consecutive reporting period. And instead of just posting this company pollutes, right? The advocate interviews, go further to interview community members, consult public reports, request comment from the company, and compares the finding with government's commitment as well. The final story is balanced. Like when you are done with all of these things, it's balanced, it's evidence-based, and solutions oriented. Because by the time you're done, you've seen the government, you are now providing, okay, this is the best way to go around it. And that is responsible storytelling. So it's when you have the documents, you could see there's a lot of, the template, there's template there, and there's ethic and safety guide, and there's how we can amplify it there. There's a whole lot of information in that toolkit. When you have access to it, you will see it. And it's a whole lot to unpack. So it gives a practical way of, how you can go about this thing. And it's just the one I just said now. You don't just go around to say that, oh, the company pollutes. What they pollute? How are they polluting it? You get. So our work is to take this a step further to know, how this thing is affecting people and how we are calling, the shot of people who are the culprit of this as well. So, we've learned how to, investigate. We've learned how to tell stories. And final question is, what exactly is your after right? Your role as a youth advocate. Everything we've discussed today leads to this moment, right? And today's training is not simply about learning a platform. It's about preparing you to become active contributors to environmental accountability. And, in 4 ways, or probably we might want to look at your 4, responsibility, right? The first one is monitor. And, this means staying informed. You visit EMAT regularly, for new disclosure gaps, gaps of budget mismatches, what flagging, what are company that report. The 2024 report is going to be out very soon. So on the platform on EMAT, as soon as it's published, we also will have access to the 2024, data. Then instead of the 2022 and 2023 that you're seeing there, you're going to see the 2024 data there as well. And your other role is identify, every data point has the potential to become a story. So look for, trends, missing information, unexpected increases, community concerns, what other things? Okay, policy gaps. And then, because one thing is that curiosity is one of your greatest strengths as an advocate. Maybe I should have, even start with that, curiosity. You've been curious to know, okay, why do we have this thing? Why does even this thing exist in the first place, right? Curiosity is one of your greatest strengths as an advocate. So if you have been curious, it's easier for you to, identify, an error, every data point you're able to see or probably tell a story with it. And the third one is use the toolkit, right? The toolkit helps you transform information into advocacy, and remember what I said, your good advocacy is accurate, it's balanced, it's evidence-based, and it is ethical. You never publish information you have not verified. So even though you saw a news, you can always post it on the group when you are not sure if it is right or wrong. You might want to post on the group for people to fact check for you. And you might get to go ahead and use such information. And the last role expected of you is share, right? Information creating part only when people see it. You share your work through, community meetings, radio programs, social media, blogs, youth organization, traditional media, yeah, partner network, and always consider your audience. If at the end of this training you are written a story that you want to be published, and you need to publish on the Dataphyte website as well, you can reach out or share, and it will be looked into by our editorial, our editor, in-house editor, to see how we can help you post or publish that as well. You can always reach out to the platform and probably tag me or reach out to me personally, and yeah, we'll take it up from there. So one thing I want to pass is that being a youth advocate is not about having all the answers as well. So burden with a wrong responsibility. It's also about asking informed questions, like seeking evidence, engaging. You live in these communities, you live with them, so seeking evidence, engaging communities, and promoting accountability with integrity as well. So that is that. I think we are coming to the end of it. So support and resources. One of the biggest mistake people make after attending a training is assuming that learning ends when the workshop ends, right? But in reality, today is only the beginning, right? Like every skill, advocacy improves with practice. So fortunately, you won't be doing this alone. Several resources have been developed to support you after today's section. And we might want to look at them again. There's the ETH platform that we had a kind of live show or demo, if you want to call it that way. The EMAT platform will become your primary working tool whenever you want to investigate methane emissions, understand government climate budget, or identify possible accountability issues. This is where you begin. And I encourage everyone not to wait until they need a platform. Visit it regularly. Don't just do it just because you want to write a story at the end of this training, or you want to write a report at the end of this training. Explore different sections, become comfortable navigating it, right? The more familiar you become, the easier your future investigations will be, right? And the second one is community storytelling toolkit. One challenge many advocates face is moving from data to communication. The toolkit solves that challenge for you. It provides practical guidance on structuring stories, asking better questions, interviewing stakeholders, writing for different audiences, presenting finding responsibly. Right, I've said all this in the past as well. Think of it as your advocacy handbook. Anytime you are trying to, you want to work, it might not just be a one-time stuff that you do. You might want to be grounded in it, and you visit them, you read them so regularly, and you keep writing on them to begin. Don't be surprised, you might become an expert in it. When people start seeing your work and they see that you write on this particular, you might be called, to speak as a panelist, all of those things. So it helps you as well. It helps you to grow your career. It helps you to grow your knowledge in that particular field. Then we're going to publish or post a video tutorial as well on our platform as well. So nobody remembers everything after one training. That is perfectly normal. So the video tutorial allows you to revisit today's lesson, aside from we sending the training, the recording that we'll make today. The video tutorials on the toolkit allows you to revisit today's lesson as well whenever you need them. So if you forgot how to navigate EMAT, you can watch the videos again. Continuous learning is part of effective advocacy. Then also Dataphyte Foundation. Anyway, so you are joining a wider community. So if you encounter challenges, have questions, or need clarification, reach out. So advocacy works best through collaboration. So that's why you're on the platform. You can always reach out. Some of your colleagues, some of your what's it called, member of on the group might have answers to your curiosity or questions. So feel free to always drop questions and practically reach out as much as you can if you need any clarification and further assistance. So now that we've understand that you know where to find support, So let's create an opportunity to address any, remaining questions. But I think the very first one I will be answering is the one that is being posted on the chats. I think that's okay. I think Fatima. Okay, so I'm trying to see who dropped the question again. I think it's more. Okay, I'm not sure, but I know someone dropped this question on the chat bot, and I will just read it. I said, when fines are collected from companies for illegal gas flaring in our communities, how much of that money comes back directly to clean up our local soil, restore our water sources, and equip our local health centers? So who asked the question? If you are the one, kindly just signify it. Don't worry, I'll respond to it now. I just want to be sure. I'm not sure when.
Sorry.
Oh, Francis, you did, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's good. That's a brilliant question to ask anyway. So since you are referring to Nigeria, yeah, the answer I will give you is no, there's no publicly at least at the moment, there's no publicly verified figure, right? Showing that a particular percentage of gas flaring penalties, is returned directly to the affected communities, or for soil cleanup, water restoration, or health care facility, just like you highlighted in your question. Yeah, and the reason is that under the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission framework established by the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, the law says that money collected from gas flaring penalties intended for is that a fixed percentage must go directly to local soil remediation, a fixed percentage must restore contaminated water sources, or a fixed percentage must equip local health centers. Instead, the fund, flow, the money or the penalty received or the fine received from this corporate, flow through government managed mechanism, and there's limited public reporting that allows community to track how much was spent in a particular locality or on specific projects. And if you want to believe as well, some of these companies carry out CSR in this community. They build schools, some build a healthcare center, some build roads and all of those things, even though it's not enough and it's putting jeopardizing the health of the community member. But I think, it's part of their CSR. They try as much as possible. And sometimes, when you ask them for that question, they said there are some particular set of people within a community, that have been engaging and have been collecting what belongs to the whole community, what the community should benefit from. Some few people from the community had an agreement with them, and they are the one, getting the reward instead of what should benefit the whole community as well. So you might want to look at that as well. That okay, are this company really doing anything that has to do with CSR in our community, right? And there's also been a recent policy change, right? The federal, I think earlier this federal government directed that gas flaring penalties be remitted to the federal account. Imagine, rather than the midstream and the downstream gas infrastructure fund, that we've always had. Why stating that expenditures would follow public procurement rules, right? So that change has added further debate about how much funding ultimately reaches affected communities at the end of the day. But I know under PR there's a 3% of what's it called should go directly to the host community. So you might want to do some findings to know, okay, your community, have you been receiving this money? And if you have been receiving it, what has it been used for, right? Is it that, okay, they are paying into a particular place and they are using it for a particular, to provide particular solution for this community at large as well. So, but what reaches, even though there's no official breakdown such as, soil cleanup and the like. I think so. In a nutshell, if you said, okay, how much comes back directly to our community, one thing is that no verified percentage is publicly reported, right? And no national public database track community by community from gas flaring penalty, even though the law intends the fund to benefit affected host communities, right? If you see the new PR Act, it says I think 30% should be given to the host community. So if I'm not sure where you're coming from, but if you're much more particular about communities such as maybe anyone in the Bayelsa, Delta, Akwa Ibom, or probably Rivers, you might want to do a little bit finding. You might want to do a little bit finding, in all of this. So, am I able to answer or respond to your question, Francis?
What you did, in as much as you said 30% of the fundings according to PR Act, So if this 30% is being sent out, it doesn't reflect. Like we don't even know the people that receive the money. We still don't know. There is no impact of it in the community.
Yes. So
So
I think that's okay. Continue.
So my question is, since it has been this way for years, and in companies like Ajib, you hear them say something like they have done this, they have done that. So is there no means of showing the accountability of which people took these funds, where it is sent, what is used for, at least the benefit to the people?
So so one thing I would say is that if we have to now delve further to see how much more, there's a 30%. Yeah, if I'm able to let me try as much as possible to confirm that for you. Now I have a working document. So that's what I'm saying. Like under the Petroleum Industry Act, right, of 2021, all producing host communities in Nigeria receive 30% of the actual annual operating expenditure OPEX from oil and gas company, right, from the preceding financial year. So the total accumulated value in the host community development. So there's a platform for it. I think I will drop the what's it called on the WhatsApp group later. The host community development trust, right, which is a legal structure mandated by Nigeria Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, and it requires oil and gas companies to annually dedicate 30% of their operating expenditure or to directly fund infrastructure, education, and economic empowerment in their local host community. So I want to believe there's a working platform for it. Okay, so I think I've seen it. I'm going to drop it on the platform now. I'm going to drop it on the platform now so that everybody can have access to it. So you can always I'm trying to still, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'll just drop the link on the WhatsApp distance so that every other person can have access to to it. So I'll just drop the link on this thing. I just drop it. So while we're still doing that, I'm going to share 2 links for us to fill while we're still on the call. One is the post. I know some people did not do the pre-test, but this is for the post-test. I'm going to drop it on the chat board for everyone to see. So please. That's it. Okay, let me do post test. So that's the post test. Then there is also evaluation form as well for this training. I'll kindly need everyone on the call to respond to. But we still have questions. We still have a few more minutes to. So can you confirm we can get the 2 links on the chat box?
Yes, sir. I can see the 2 links that you put.
Okay, so please let's try as much as possible to respond to the questions there. So if you still have any questions, clarification that you still want us to look into, I'm still on the call. Next 5 minutes we can do that, and yeah. So Francis, have you been able to access the link? The link to the host comply?
Yes, I'm on it, though it's still loading.
Yeah, it takes a. So you could see even in the first list is telling you 112 settlers, 163 incorporated HCDTS, which is those community, what's it called? There are 6 fund managers, 1,168 projects, then 16 banks. So tells you everything that you want to go further to say what are the incorporated HCD host community. So these are the host community. The approved trust anyway. So Warri Kingdom Coastal Host Community Development Trust. So we have in total there are 163. There are 163. There are 163. Then another thing you might want to look at is the fund managers as well. So you could easily, these are the fund manager. 4 left. These are the fund managers, then host communities as well. So I'm not sure how the host community works. I think you just have to include name of, let me see. I think you might need to search or something. So do we still have any questions before we go? So please kindly address to the posted because it's not an examination anyway. So nobody's competing. So probably nobody will be punished for wrong answer. The purpose is simply for to measure learning. So when we compare the pretest with the posted, we understand whether today's training, achieve its objectives, and also the The evaluation form is important as well. So please be honest. Tell us what worked well. Tell us what we can improve. Your feedback, helps us creating future trainings. We believe learning should improve continuously. So the improvement begins with your honest opinion. So let me try and see if I can track how many people have. So nobody submitted. Okay, the post test. Let me see the post test. Are you feeling this thing at all?
Yes, I am still on mine.
Okay. All right. So seems it's almost 2. It's a 2 hours training, and yeah, as we come to the end of the training, I would like everyone to remember one important truth, and it's that climate change is often discussed using very large numbers, millions of tons, billions of dollars, global targets, international agreement, and sometimes this number feel distance, but behind every number are real people, families, farmers, fishers, children, communities. So every methane emission represents more than a scientific measurement, just like we see it. It represents an opportunity to improve lives. So, today you've learned how to understand methane, you have learned how to interpret environmental data, you've learned how to use EMAT. Most importantly, you have learned how to ask, better questions as well. Have to ask better questions as well. And as youth advocate, you have an opportunity to become trusted voices within your communities. Remember, advocacy is not attacking anyone. You are not attacking anybody, right? It's about encouraging transparency, promoting evidence, supporting informed public discussion, and helping decision makers fulfill the commitment they have already made. So what I would say as well is that never underestimate your influence as well. One well-researched story can inspire a national conversation. One informed community meeting can influence local action, and as well, one data-driven investigation can improve public accountability as well. And just like Margaret Mead famously said, he said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So I hope today's training becomes the beginning of many conversations, important investigations, positive environmental change. So this is me thanking you for your active participation, and I wish you advocate for maintaining accountability. We can always continue this conversation on the group chats. If there is need for any clarification, if there's need for any, maybe you need more to your clarification, or you still need some answers to some of the questions that you are here to get. So thank you. I can see that 2 people have, submitted their post-test responses. So so any training evaluation to please kindly help attend to it. It means a lot to us. It helps us to shape further, upcoming training, and also I will advise every one of us to remain on the platform. There might be other benefits, in the future, maybe probably grants for stories to be pursued within your community, maybe a little bit a small fund for you to, you know, carry out an investigation around, you know, what is happening within your community. And the much more why you'll be the first people that will be reaching out to, right? You'll be the first people that will be reaching out to, and hopefully we'll, you know, take it up from there. So thank you very much, everyone. Do have a nice day.